We are back on The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Chris Stewart with A.J. McCarron, Trent Richardson. Glad you're with us and hope you'll check us out each week. You find us online, thedynastybama.com, on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, wherever you happen to get your podcast. And also at The Dynasty Bama is the hub where you can find us across social media. Today, we talk about Ty Simpson declaring for the draft, what the quarterback room should look like for the Tide in 2026. We're also going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's something Coach Saban used to do with Trent and AJ and all of his players after a ball game, looking ahead to the next week. But we're going to do that, taking a look at 2025 for the Crimson Tide, and also we'll react, as tough as it may be, to the semifinals that do not include Alabama, or did not include Bama, I should say, and look ahead to the national championship game, as that one is just about set to take place in Miami, and we'll have a true home team for that title matchup. But guys, let's get going and talk about, first of all, Ty Simpson. And Trent, I want to hear from you first on this. As somebody who declared for the draft after his junior year, kind of take us what goes into a decision like this and making that announcement when you got another year that you could stick around and go to college.
Yeah, it was quite different when I was playing. In my situation, I had a different situation. But everything Ty has done for the school, even just staying there. I think he's there for 4 years, almost 3 years now.
I guess he was
It was 3 or
4
4.
counting his
Yeah,
redshirt
4.
year,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean, that man, listen, nowadays that takes
that's forever.
yeah, it takes a lot to sit there. I'm gonna stay in one spot and fight my way up and wait my turn. Especially with the NIL stuff. I think just going into making that decision. For me at the time, I was really big on was Eddie ready? Like I know what Mark handed me. Like I know like the leadership role, and I knew from him winning the Heisman, him winning the national championship as a starting running back. Like those was big shoes to fill. And I used to always ask Eddie, like tell Eddie like, hey, all right, man, you ready or not? And he's like, man, Trent, go ahead and go to the lead, this and that, man. You don't got it, this and that. And so when I wasn't sure until I was sure about him and my situation. I had kids in high school, so I had two girls, and I had to go. If it was the NIL today, I would have stayed because there wasn't no reason to rush to the NFL. You talk about a kid who didn't have anything, and his face is everywhere around the world, and we're making a dang dollar off of it. And so you look at those numbers, and you look at what you could be making and what they're making a day. It's like, man, if they would have had this, I would have got a PhD. I would have got I would have got all that, man. But I just going into that decision, man, like what number, where's your name going to be called? Like, where is it floating around? And what teams need my type of talent? What do I bring to the stage? And it ain't always good going top 3 or top 5 or top 10 all the time. You go to a situation where you got to fix right now, and they want you to win right now, and you might be in a messed up situation. I know the money might be good, but at the same time, man, you get these kids that's 20, 21, and 22 that's never had to experience that type pressure, and because it's different pressure. It's different pressure when you're talking about losing your job, and you're talking about losing a starting position, and you're talking about losing your livelihood.
All right, so we go from Dr. Richardson's perspective to Coach McCarron. AJ, what do you think Ty needs to show over the course of the next few months at the Combine, Pro Day, interviews, all of that to solidify and improve his draft status?
Well, listen, I supposedly probably pissed him and his dad off a little bit by saying I thought right now how the season ended, and it was a little more of from the mental side of things. I thought he was a later round pick. They didn't like that, according to some people. I, it's hard for me. I think, and I love Ty, and I've said it all year long. And anybody's watched the show, and y'all on here know that. And after the first game, hell, I was the one sticking up for him when the whole fan base was wanting to, write him off. Um, I would have thought coming back um, to college, even if it's not at Alabama, and I understand he loves Alabama, but I thought it would have done a major amount of um, just the mental side of things for him. It would have helped him out tremendously, I think. And I've never been big on, and I think teams are starting to see this more than anything when it comes to the league, is not taking guys that haven't started more than 1 year. And that's a big concern for me, right? Because you only have 12 games, 14 games to go off of, however many we played. So um, I think when you look at the success rate at the next level in the NFL, guys that haven't started, um, kind of taking the Bill Walsh mindset to it where, hey, I'm not going to draft a guy that hasn't had 34 starts. I think you see the ebbs and flows in that when they've started that many games, how they've handled pressure. And I think if there's one area Ty's lacked in this year has been handling the pressure on the field. And from a mental standpoint, I think it rattled him at times. And listen, is it his fault? Probably not. The O-line play was not very good. But the things you can control, and I think when you look at when Coach Saban was there, and you'd hear all the time, man, Ty's super talented, but lost his confidence. And from what I've heard is the mental games that Coach Saban used to play on him, messed with him mentally. And I don't know if he couldn't handle it or what, but I don't know if anything in the draft wise, other than just showing you're healthy, is really going to bump anything up. I also think this QB draft class is extremely weak. Um, I mean, really bad. So I think that's a positive for him as well, to be bumped up even higher. But listen, everybody's like, oh, well, he's a projected late first round, second round. You can go off projections if you want. Those guys making those projections are not the guys drafting, and that's the cold hard truth about it. So, I mean, it is what it is. But listen, I wish Ty nothing but the best. I've always liked him, always liked his dad. They've always been great to me. Good family. Um, but I would like to see him back in college. But hell, I wish him nothing but the best, and I'll be rooting for him for sure.
Trent, let's go with this final word on Ty. How do you think he's going to be remembered? What do you think his legacy is going to be?
You know, I've been thinking about that one. To me, man, Ty was a perfectionist. He tried to put us in the right situation every time, and it's hard to do that when you got 10 other guys on the field. And AJ said all the time that the Coach Saban said what Coach Saban said. Trying to take a whole bunch of individuals, selfish, and bond them to one. I think he was trying to do that, and I don't think this was the team for that. For what they was trying to do, at least the scheme of what they was trying to get around to him. But I think, man, as far as his legacy, man, he was one of those guys that he was a perfectionist, and he tried to do all he can do, and to win. He was a warrior.
How about you, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think people will remember him as a guy that stuck around. It's also tough because at the quarterback position, you get remembered as one of the greats off of winning. I mean, you can have talent, but when I think of greats in any sport at any level, I think of guys that won championships. So that doesn't mean he's not a really good player, um, or to piss anybody off. But I think people will respect and take pride in the fact that he stuck around in an era of college football that you don't have to. That he loved Alabama. It meant a lot to him. He wanted to win. It didn't work out. And it's part of the game. It's part of football. It's part of playing this sport we love. It's not always going to be perfect, but I think that's the biggest thing is people remember, hey, this guy loved Alabama, and probably keep it at that.
For me, I think of, that position, and running back's probably second, but quarterback is so tied to winning. But I also think at Alabama, and I'm going to go just the era of Coach Saban to now. People think of Greg, they think of the first one under Coach. They don't think about the next year where we lost 3 ball games. They think of, and that's the way it ought to be. When you do things right, it ought to be your highs, whatever your high happens to be. So, for Greg, it's the championship. AJ, two natties, and as the starter is what I was thinking about, and almost the 3 in a row. Forgive me for not giving you credit for your third, but you know what I meant. Two were with you as the starter,
right,
for that. After you, I'm having to stop think. Was it Blake? Blake is a guy that maxed out. The win over LSU, the comeback in Baton Rouge is one that I'll always think of him, and still think if Lane hadn't had him throw the football and just hand it to Derrick Henry, we beat Ohio State and win the Natty that year. But I digress. Jake Coker has all this stuff where he doesn't meet expectations until, guess what? He gets to take a knee, national championship, gutting through a lot of stuff. Then we get fortunate enough with Jalen. People don't think Jalen is being the national championship quarterback, even though he got us to a title game and within 2 minutes of one. And then the next year, he 26 wins as a starter, for crying out loud. But they remember him. To me, he's going to be remembered as the guy who stuck around and didn't blow up that locker room, was the best teammate, cared about the program. And when he left the right way. Tua laid it all on the line. Second, 22 and 26 is what he's always going to be known for. Mack, 1 year, but Mack could have gone. Mack had plenty of opportunities before that. Been understandable if he never came to Bama to begin with that locker room. But he sticks it out. He wins one in that incredibly stupid year of COVID. And then, help me, I know there's one in between, Jalen. He and Jalen, right?
Bryce.
Oh, forgive me. That guy. And then you go to Jalen, who's got to follow that. Jalen could have left. Again, you're not going to think about Jalen for being a champion, but you're going to think, for me, Saban's last quarterback, but the guy also that held that thing together so it was even possible to be the next year where you could be in position to not have a total collapse. And then, like you said, here we are with Ty. To me, he's a guy that stuck it out, persevered. And did he get the championship that he wanted? No, but he got us to an SEC championship game. He got couple of great wins and did it the right way. And he's going to forever have his hand and footprints at Denny Chimes as a captain. And I don't have to tell you guys what an honor that is and how big that is. So
yeah, but that's the reason why I agree with AJ when they say like he need to come back. Like so you can have those moments. Like he's
have
had some
another
good
one.
moments, yeah, but he haven't. When we talk about even when we talk about Jalen and Rowe, like we talk about the grave digger, we talk about the big plays he made. We know about that. Not saying that Ty didn't have that. I don't think he had the time.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have the time to be. Man, he was one of those quarterbacks that would just. Because when he was playing good, when he wasn't getting hit as much, like, bro, he was the best quarterback in the nation to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I just don't think he had that much time to do what we know what Ty can do. With his talent.
So tied to the legacy, and we're not going to go with should he or should he not. I'm just going to go legacy standpoint. What is it if he takes a deal, as Nick Kelly just tweeted out while we're on air, and Steve Gorgie, our producer, put out there for us? Among the deals that Nick is reporting, one could be worth $6.5 million for a season if Ty Simpson comes back to college. What's his Alabama legacy then if he takes that?
I mean, listen, I think it's the same thing. I understand, I'd be surprised if there wasn't pressure from within the building to go as well. I don't know that.
Yeah.
I've talked to certain people, but I would be surprised if they weren't saying, hey.
It's a good time for everybody.
Yep. And I think, it's a weak QB class. You could still be, even though it didn't go great halfway through the year and towards the end, you could still be up there towards the top. You never know what happens. This could be your draft projection. So I think it's a little bit of that possibly. But I think the legacy still stays the same as, a guy that stayed, got his chance, didn't run anywhere else. If he goes somewhere else now, which again, I would tell him to go back to college. I think he needs more starts. Like I think he needs to see more plays in college. I think he needs more experience because, and this is just me, and I can, again, they can be pissed off at me. I know the QB position, and watching Ty, he thinks a lot. From the time they break the huddle, his eyes are steady working a ton. He stays at the line of scrimmage a ton. It takes a long time he's trying to be perfect, but the process takes forever. That is a guy that needs more experience when you watch that position. When you watch him earlier in the year, his feet were settled in the pocket. When you watch him later, midway and late through the year, his feet are bouncing all over the place. When I see that, it's a guy that hasn't had enough game experience. It's not a knock on him. Like we these parents and the players and everybody, y'all got to stop being so sensitive. Like I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm not going to hold it back anymore because I'm trying to be everybody's friend, which I love everybody and I don't ever mean anything personal, but stop taking it so personal and realize the fact, subjective and objective thought process in this. We all go through that as parents and as people, but you got to see the things that when you watch a really good quarterback play and a confident quarterback play, there's a certain way they play. And when you lose that confidence, you see those traits also. So I think the more game experience he has in college, the better off he will be in the end, and he will prolong his NFL career.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some other spots that could look different. But we are going to stay with quarterback. And what does it look like for Alabama with both Austin Mack and Keelon Russell announcing this week, yep, we're coming back to Tuscaloosa. Didn't used to be a case where guys who had never started had to announce that they were coming back, but that's the day and age that we live in now. That's among the things that we'll discuss right here on The Dynasty. It's a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. College football not feeling as juicy as it once did? Well, let me put you on to something that'll shake up your Saturday and every other day of the week. Because now that Wendy's has crispy chicken tendies and a powerhouse lineup of new sauces, it's time you transferred to the hottest team in the league.
That's right. Team Tendies. Wendy's Tendies. They're making an undeniable rookie season, one for the books.
Enjoy first-string flavor from some five-star recruits. Rep your new favorite team everywhere you go, but make sure to cheer with your mouth closed. Take it to the end zone of savory sauces like honey barbecue, creamy ranch, and the new Wendy's signature sauce to experience a total taste bud blitz of flavor. It's time to join a team that won't upset you with an upset. Taste the phenom that's gracing the gridiron with its juicy, crispy, and tendery tendencies.
Don't fumble the bag. Commit to Team Tendies and call the most delicious plays in the playbook. All right, huddle up. Tendies on three. Tendies on three. 1, 2, 3.
Tendies.
Let's do this.
Wendy's Chicken Tendies, now at participating U.S. Wendy's. It's The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, along with AJ and Trent. I'm Chris, so thankful you spent some time with us. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, thedynastybama.com. That's the hub to check us out. Also, at The Dynasty Bama is the social media hub. We hope you'll rate, review, and share every time we get an opportunity. Let's go back to our conversation, guys, about the quarterback position. We talked about the fact that Ty is moving on. Now it's a battle between Austin and Keelon, even though they're incoming freshmen who are really good in Jet Tamala and Taden Kaava. Mack and Russell are the two, though, with the experience. And, AJ, we'll start with you. Just tell me what you see from both of those guys. Give me the analysis of who they are first before we start talking about who's got the inside track.
Both two, talented dudes. But I think both, really big question marks because you haven't seen enough from them, so you don't really know. Mack coming with Coach DeBoer from Washington, and but didn't start this year, so you don't really know, in a full season what you're going to get, or even a full game what you're going to get. So that's a question mark. And then Keelon's just so young, you don't know what you're going to get there either. I mean, you haven't seen him play, but other than what, Eastern Illinois.
Yeah.
It'll make for a very interesting, a ton of clickbait, and a lot of hype in the off season, though. And, spring ball and all the way through the summer and leading up to the season. So it's going to be interesting. I think you got two talented guys, really talented guys. And I'm excited and interested in this one to see how it plays out.
Trent, I thought Ty did a really good job, had a plenty strong enough arm. But, man, there's something different about seeing it come out of Austin's hand and Keelon's hand for me. Again, that's an uneducated eye, but it just looked like there was a little more from both of those guys. If that's the case, what does it do for the offense to have a little – if it is a little more pop, what can it bring?
It's kind of one of those things where, like, do we need a fresh start? Fresh start can give you a little energy, give you a little pop, especially in the beginning of the season. But it's one of those things to where, like, I'm kind of like AJ, like, we haven't seen no film for real. We haven't seen those guys for real. So that's a big question mark. I definitely think Keelon, he got a fast, smooth release. Mack, it just seemed like you can tell Mack has been in the offense or been around that coaching staff, as far as the offense coordinator and Kalen DeBoer, a lot longer than, Ty or Keelon. If that makes sense. I
Sure.
feel like he's more comfortable. He is a guy he did recruit at Washington. He brought him in from Washington. So, it makes sense. But I know the young kid, Keelan, man, they say he's a soldier, man. They say he's a battler. Just to even hear his story, man, like, I respect what the kid is doing over there. And I respect him for the way he came in and, his situation that happened with his sister. So listen, that kid there, man, I'm pulling for this kid. Hopefully, we get to see him a lot more than we did last year or this year. And I just want to see a good battle, man, and let those kids really go at it. So this spring is gonna mean a lot to a lot of people on that field this year. Far as having first guys and having a lot of different faces than what we seen when Coach Saban was there. Talking about these young pups, and now that these guys are out the door, and so it's gonna be a lot of questions, and it's gonna be a lot of answers that have to be answered when it comes.
And in order to utilize, whether you're talking about Ty Simpson's arm strength this past season, whether you're talking about Austin or Keelan, better give him some time. Better give him some time to throw the football. And a lot of question marks. Caden Proctor, Parker Brailsford going to the draft. Of the 8 offensive linemen that played 100-plus snaps this season, this is another great number that Steve Gorgie puts together for us. Of the 8 that played 100-plus snaps this season, only Michael Carroll and William Sanders return. So you got some guys that are still around, but not of the guys that played at least 100 snaps. Proctor and Brailsford are going to the draft. Dewberry, Vandermark, Roberts are done with eligibility. Wilkin Formby is transferred. Is that a problem, or is it time for a fresh start, tackle to tackle?
I think it's both.
Gotcha. That's fair.
I think the fact that you're losing so many guys, but it gives you a chance to start fresh as well. I would have liked to seen Parker Brailsford stay. I think he needs some more experience, but listen, it is what it is. I mean, you got to adapt with the times, or you're going to get left behind. And so this gives Coach DeBoer and this coaching staff a chance to go out and find some O-linemen. They better do it quick and find a way to get this thing on the right track, because I just don't think it was. I don't know if any coaching changes have been made on that front, but they got to figure something out, because that was not good by any stretch, and they got some issues.
I'll ask both of you guys this, and either or neither of you may want to jump in on this. Do you feel like a change is going to be made with the O-line coach? And this is the reason we haven't heard an announcement is maybe because it's a situation like Coach Saban used to do. He always wanted to give a guy a chance to find a landing place first before he announced the move. In other words, he would give the guy that was moving on a chance to make an announcement that he was somewhere else, so it looked better for the guy's situation.
Good.
Either.
Yeah,
Could.
it could be.
I think a change has to be made. I mean, if we're going to be honest with our fans that watch this show, and not just, wear the crimson glasses. I think enough fans could see that the O-line was an issue. And the play was never consistent, right? And I think that's the key word. Consistency for this O-line was never there. I don't know if you've ever seen an O-line, Alabama O-line, not be able to get push up front and run the ball. And so whether that's technique and that's how they're being taught, whether that's scheme, there's something going on. So
Technique, scheme, or motivation.
Yeah.
It's one of the three, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's something. Or we ain't got the right players.
Well,
so guess what? You're starting fresh there.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, you know, I never root for coaches to get fired or anything. You know, it's a tough business to be a part of. It's never fun, but I think you can see when a change needs to be done, and with that being the biggest probably struggle all year, I think something's going to happen.
Let's flip it to the receiver position. Isaiah Horton, the 20th player to enter the portal. So Horton's gone. Jeremy's done because of eligibility. It definitely sounds like Ryan Williams and Latzir Brooks are going to be back. But I'll ask a question that I think the answer to when I say, can those guys be the top two receivers on the team next season? I think they will be. And if they both get where we all believe they can be, we're going to be fine. You got to have some work. You got to have some depth. But in terms of a 1 and 1A, when they're at their best, that's a pretty strong combo, is it not?
Yeah, I think Brooks was one of the top receivers that we had this year.
Yeah, he was top 3.
Yeah. I mean, even with I like is it Rico? I like Rico staying too.
He's gone, right?
Oh, he
well,
did leave.
he was, but he's apparently said he's coming back.
Yeah. I like
he took
him
his name out of the
too.
portal, I should say.
Yeah.
And that may have been because of, the announcement that Isaiah's leaving.
My only issue with it, though, see how y'all feel. My only issue with it is all of them have the same body type. They're all smaller guys. I mean, we have zero size. And that's a concern for me. Like when you're playing quarterback and you're having to throw dig routes, daggers, deep out routes, like you want a dude with some size. Go balls, because the catch radius is that much better. It's not saying that they can't make the play, but it's easier to throw certain routes to a bigger receiver. And when all these dudes are the same height, that damn near, and the same body weight, like it makes it tough. So I'd like to. I don't understand why Isaiah. I mean, maybe it's just strictly off of money, but that one kind of caught me off guard. But I think they got to go out and find somebody with some size. We can't have everybody the same size looking like a slot receiver.
I agree with you on that, but let me ask real quick. Does the way they utilize their tight ends offset some of that deficiency if you don't have the bigger receiver like you're talking about? Because it's not always a traditional. I mean, they ask the tight ends to do some things that are often asked of wide receivers, do they not?
I mean, a little bit, but listen, Cuevas ain't out there carving up. He's not a true route runner,
I got
right?
you.
Cuevas, I think, would be tremendous. I mean, just exceptional in a pro style offense where he's blocking and all of a sudden you got a true play action. He's leaking out on sail routes, or he's running true basics or something like that, where it fits more of his routes, tree. But you're asking him to just spread out wide and run glances and run comebacks and, you know, daggers and stuff. Like, he's not that type of tight end. So, I mean,
Quavers
yeah,
is a true
it would.
tight end. He's
Yeah, he's like a true tight end that fits a pro style offense that I think is going to be very successful at the next level if the right place takes him. I don't know if he fits this offense with them wanting to spread, the lack of run game, and not the play action not being as good as you need it to be because you can't run the ball. Now, if you can run the ball, then now it opens things up for him. But if you're asking him to just spread out and, hey, we're going 11 personnel and we're going to play empty, I mean, I don't know. But he's still a hell of a player.
Yeah.
Well, let's go this route, Trent. Since AJ brings up, play action, running back, running game, and all that. Bama had a verbal commitment from Hollywood Smothers, the North Carolina State transfer, but he takes a visit to Texas and commits on Sunday to the Longhorns. Again, it's not shocking that a guy makes an official visit after committing to a school and then winds up changing that commitment. But the timing and the fact that it's a college guy as opposed to a high school kid is different. This stuff all gets ramped up. We know it's money. We get it. But what do you think? What do you make of the public commitment and then making the change? But beyond that, what are you doing now as a compliment to Xavier Crowell, Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, and A.K. Deere, who are all back for next year, at least as of right now?
Well, to say, as far as his, public commitment, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a kid and he definitely got to do what best fit him. And, I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what's the money, or did he just look at the offense and be like, hey, you know what, this don't fit me. Hey, they had a -3 yards at one point this year as far as rushing. Do they use their running back that much out the backfield? I mean, that's stuff, that you got to calculate in that too. Like, oh, they losing all these guys to the portal, or, who's going to be there to block? Can I understand this offense? Does this offense fit my style? So who knows, man, what came of it. But, to compliment those guys that's already there and that's going to be there next year, the biggest thing they can do is go load up on the line. And if you don't, I mean, because I know we talk about portals and stuff like that, like, I don't know who you go get out the portal either. Like, far as O-linemen, you can find a few, athletic, players out there as far as, like, athletes. But as far as O-line, like, who do you see or who do you go get as far as the O-lineman? Because you got to think about this. They're in the portal as O-linemen. It's not the best situation for an O-lineman. Because you'll get stuck in that thing, man, especially if you ain't got no film. Like, we can't just go off what you did in high school or what you did on practice school. Like, they don't watch practice film. They ain't watching practice film if you get done up to a team or that we already whooped and, that we don't think this guy should be on the field. So why would you know what I mean? Like, that's just me as a coach or as a scout thinking, like, how do we, help the O-line? How do we help these running backs and quarterbacks? Because the most important position besides the quarterback is your offensive line and defensive line when it comes to defense, right? Well, offensive line, because if you cannot get the ball off, is you cannot throw the ball, you cannot run the ball. What are we doing?
All right. So, AJ, with Smothers gone, you got a Xavier Crowell, Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, A.K. Deere. And let's say you pick up somebody else. This was going to start with Xavier Crowell next year, isn't it? Anyway, I mean, wouldn't you think it has to, given the fact you didn't get – it's not a criticism, it's just a fact. If you didn't get production this past year, you're definitely going to give that kid with all the upside in the world an opportunity first, are you not? Or he's going to get a strong look at whether he can handle it at this level.
No, I mean, I think he'll get a look. I don't know if he's a starter. I think Daniel Hill is your starter going into this thing. But I think you got 3 horses right there that are you can win with, and they're all a different type of back. Daniel Hill's a bruiser. Crowell's a shifty guy, but can also be a little bit of a bruiser. And then Kevin Riley, who I like a ton. I think you can do a lot of different packages and concepts with him, and adding him into the pass game, screen game, everything else. And I think he runs hard as hell too. So listen, I think you got 3 great backs in those 3, but if it was me, I think Daniel Hill has earned the right to be the starter. I think he has a chance to be really good, but you got to get the big fellas up front to block.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Bama would be a fool if they let this kid come in and start day one. If you don't come in and go through spring and, make him go through the ropes. I went through it. Eddie went through it. Mark went, when I got there, bro, I was last on the list, and we might have had 9 different backs. But I had to work my way up to that. It did me a service because I had to fight. It did me a service because I was the 5-star in the bunch and highly rated and all this other stuff, but I started at the bottom. If that do not happen, they would do this kid a disservice for a lot of different meaningful reasons.
Yeah. Development for one thing, but also in the locker room for another, if it's just handed. Totally understand. Totally agree.
Not saying that he can't play. I'm saying from day one, they just need to let this kid brick by brick build his way up and let him have every one of them practices is a teaching, learning lesson for him. And not to say that, oh, you just come in, you're the guy. It's not like getting drafted. You go first pick, you're the guy coming in. Right.
And again, despite the lack of production last year, we're all in agreement that
I don't
the
put
pieces
it on the
are
back.
there. We just got to give them room.
I just don't feel like what we ran for the running backs that we have, and we kept saying it last year, like get these guys out the shotgun and let them guys get in a dot or the pistol and let them run downhill. Let the play develop. Let the block develop. Let it all set up. I don't think we got those runners to just be so shifty and quick, just out the backfield, like just out of shotgun, to where your defense can set up when your back is just to one side.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly for 2025, and get some thoughts also on the semifinals that have wrapped up and look towards the national championship game down in Miami. The final segment for this edition of the Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, comes your way right after this. Back for our final segment this week on the Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Chris Stewart, of course, with AJ McCarron and Trent Richardson. Guys, let's get into this real quick. A cap on 2025. The good, the bad, the ugly. When you reflect on the season, AJ, we'll let you go first. Give me the good. It's not a ringing endorsement right there, partner.
Yeah. I'd say the good is the fact that the team battled and a lot of times battled back from a deficit and fought to the end. The bad is the fact that it just didn't turn out the way you wanted. To end on a really ugly loss like that, the worst in however many years. That's probably the bad. The ugly is not being able to run the ball. Simple as that. You got to figure it out, and you got to be much better going into next year.
Trent, what have you got? Good, bad, ugly.
Good for me. I think the defense got, better. Especially from game one. I think they took the challenge on, and they caused turnovers. They started hitting the quarterback. Um, Farther down the season, I think it got bad with as far as the offensive unit that we couldn't win the second half. And we started slow. And so when you start slow and you don't win the second half, like, it's nowhere around it. It's bad when it comes to thinking that you're gonna beat a team like Georgia or, Oklahoma or Indiana that comes out on fire, right? And so you see the results. Ugly for me, like AJ said, we had a negative 3 yards in rushing in the game. Then we had it another time at halftime. Like, offense line got to get way better. Run game got to get seriously better. Just protecting, the quarterback, it got to be there. So that's definitely for me. Ugly is getting that run game, getting that front line, make that the best front line, and make that the best spring that we can go through with that whole line.
For me, the good is that you clearly made a step forward in regards to the previous year. Getting to the SEC championship game, getting into the playoff, winning a game in the playoff, especially when week one shell-shocked everybody. Showed me that there's more of a foundation there than maybe people realized or anybody knew to that point, because you don't overcome that if you don't have some stuff in place fairly solid. The bad that you had a chance to run the table in the SEC with a home game against Oklahoma. You do a lot more good than they did, but you miss it out because you did a lot worse than they did as well, with turnovers and some of the mistakes. And to me, the ugly is the fact that you could not run it at any point when you wanted to or had to. And I still think that goes back. I mean, if you can, Kalen DeBoer put it on himself that they shouldn't have gone for it on fourth down in the first half when they did. And that's fine. That's fair. But at the same time, the fact that you can't run the ball right there and didn't at any other point during the year, to me, that's the ugly. And that may not be ugly a ton of places, but that's ugly for Alabama, because you're supposed to be able to get that done from that distance at some point during the year. And there was no level of consistency, which would have helped Ty, would have helped the whole situation.
Yep.
Let's go this last thing about 2025. Give me the number one thing that has to get better coming out of this season if Bama's got to be back. And we've probably already hit it, but let's go ahead and hear it.
I think we could all three say it at the same time. Run game.
Run game. Yep. Offensive line play, period.
Yeah. I mean, O-line play has got to just be night and day different. It's just the truth behind it. I think you can get that done. You change this team. You change the trajectory of this team and what they can achieve by a crazy margin. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
3 for 3 on this, Trent?
Yeah, that definitely. The O-line got to get better. Run game got to get better. The mindset. Like that, like the mindset, not just, as a team, but like, as an O-line, like an offensive unit, like you got to have that, I'm going to punch you in your mouth before you hit me, especially when it comes to that mindset of the O-lineman. Yeah, I agree. We 3 for 3 on that.
All right. Let's flip it to what happened in the semifinals. Unfortunately, Bama wasn't a participant. There was an SEC school, though, And, man, was it a heck of a ball game. But Miami beats Ole Miss 31-27. Heck of a ball game for both sides, but the Canes are able to come back and win that thing. That was fun to watch. When you don't have to live and die on it being your team, that was a pretty entertaining one to watch, fellas. What about for you, Trent?
Yeah, it was fun to watch, man, and my nephew got to play a lot too, so I got to love to see him do that. For Ole Miss. But when you're talking about this game here, man, as a spectator, kudos off to Ole Miss, and I say that for a couple of reasons. But we already know the number one reason is they didn't have their the coach that came in, the season with, it's a promising season to win a national championship. That's what the hopefuls was. They didn't have him, and not only did they not have him, they didn't have their other coaches either. So, to me, man, it was almost like a mission to be set up for failure from the jump when it comes to not having the guys that you're used to in the building and teaching you that has been teaching you all year, and to even just to be kind of being messed around with. About if the coach is gonna be here or not. Like I said, kudos off to them, man. But listen, Miami is real. They came out to play. It's a lot of stuff we've been saying on this show that they do. And listen, the worst thing people can do right now for college football is to let Miami win a national championship. Who don't want to be in Miami as a college football, as a college kid? And with Miami back on top, people don't realize or know about the U back in the day, how live it was, and people don't realize that NFL players are standing in line and the U will come straight through, and they was the big guys of the city. So man, listen, it's scary to see the U back at the top right now.
Any thoughts on that one, AJ?
The Oregon and Indiana game were about as entertaining. That was about as entertaining as the Indiana-Alabama game. I
did get a little solace in that, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like, okay, they are that good.
Yeah.
It still sucks to be on that end of it, but at least you go, okay, well, they were that good.
Yeah. And then, I hated it for Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss should have won that game. Just bad tackling at the end cost them. Couldn't make it enough tackles throughout the night. Had the dudes in position, had them for losses, a lot of the time, and just could not make tackles. Trinidad Chambliss, unbelievable performance by him. Their offense. I was rooting for Ole Miss, wanted to see them win, but happy for Cristobal at the same time.
Yeah,
I got to go Indiana though. I think this thing is over and done with. The big lady has sung, but we'll see.
Trent, how about you?
Oh, I
Is it
agree.
Indiana.
I like Indiana. They just look like, and I hate to compare teams, man. They look like our 2009 national championship team, man. Like, they not too flashy. They gonna make sure everything's done the right way, and they got some vets on that team that's not satisfied with just making it to the playoffs. We're not just satisfied with just winning a conference championship. They want to win a whole thing, and so when you have objectives like that, the sky's the limit. So listen, I'm proud of what Kurt Snyder has put together with them, but man, listen, Indiana is on a different move right now.
Yep, they are indeed. Guys, we're out of time for this week. We will come back, and we're in the midst of basketball season now as well. Rough week for the Crimson Tide, dropping a pair of games, but they've got two tough road matchups coming up this week. We'll be talking about on next week's show, in addition to talking about a national champion and further developments on recruiting Alabama, what its roster will look like as they get ready to move towards spring practice. But that's going to do it for this week. For AJ McCarron, for Trent Richardson, and our producer Steve Gorky, I'm Chris Stewart. Thanks for joining us. Roll Tide, everybody.